And we're going to go live. Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions on a Sunday. Today's session is about living on the road. We've joked in my memes group about the 4-hour work week and laptop lifestyle. And, you know, there's a lot of people that will sell you the lifestyle, they sell you the courses, but not really doing the business side of things. They're just telling you how great it is. And so what I want to do is get a couple of people on for two reasons. One, because they're very good when it comes to health and exercise and stuff like that. But the other thing is they're both operating businesses and they're doing it well when they do on the road. So Emil, do you want to start by introducing yourself?
Hey, it's Emil here, and yes, I am a digital nomad currently based in Lisbon. I run a coaching business and have a supplement brand on Amazon.
Excellent. And for you, Nate? Nate?
I'm Nate. Hello from Thailand. And e-commerce entrepreneur and investor. Also I've been, living abroad since like 2013 or mostly abroad. Aside from business, love yoga, health, fitness, biking, Burning Man, and also business.
Yes, excellent. So let's just start with you, Emil. Like you, obviously, you're on the road. You're in Lisbon. Weather's beautiful over there. So can you backtrack? Why did you leave where obviously you're from the UK? Whereabouts are you from the UK originally?
I grew up in Wales, but lived in Bristol. So it's Bristol that I left from.
I love the vibe. Bristol's amazing. Wales is amazing. They've got similar vibes. They're quite close to each other. Hour and a half, depend on whereabouts you are in Wales and Bristol. Great music scene and stuff down there. Good clubs, good vibe. But fucking weather, man. The weather can't always sustain all year round, right? So you've obviously moved abroad. What was the story about the move?
So I was kind of a career medical doctor, went to university, went to medical school from 18. You know, I went straight through, no gap years or anything like that. And then got to 4 or 5 years of doctoring and thought, this isn't what I want. There wasn't the freedom. This wasn't the work I wanted to do. I couldn't train when I wanted to train. So I left over in 2015. And then it took me 3 years of kind of coaching and exploring, because I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was in 2015. It took me a few years of exploring to figure out that I could build a business and I could travel. So from 2017, 2018, I was traveling from the UK. End of 2018, I was in Asia for, I think, 8-9 months. But then actually I met Nate at Baby Bathwater in 2018, which was a private island in Croatia. And then from and then even more travel all of last year. And then from September of last year, left the UK for good and have been entirely, nomads, but mostly for the last 2.5 years, I've been on the road.
That makes sense. Same to you, Nate. Do you want to give your backstory as well?
Yeah. After college, wanted to adventure and travel. So I went and taught English in Korea. And on my way back, I was traveling actually in northern Thailand in this little town called Pai, where I met the first digital nomad that I was had ever encountered. This guy was, doing something from his computer, had VAs in Indonesia and Philippines. And after meeting him, this totally just blew my mind. And, after that, got back home and was just, committed to figuring it out. And my parents thought I was crazy, but I kept at it. A lot of this, moved back home, moved back out again. And that was now, I guess 7 years ago or so that I've been, living a good chunk of the year in Asia. This year, more than I was planning on being in Asia, given the travel environment. But here we are.
Sounds good. Just want to quickly say, Saibi, hello from sunny Somerset. Great vibe, great music, always great weather here. I love that down there in Somerset where you are. But I would disagree that you got 12 months of the great weather side. But it is where you are on the coast. It's beautiful down there. And when it's warm, it's warm. But yeah, you can correct me if I'm wrong. But you don't get 12 months of it. Like you guys will move where the sunshine is, won't you? You won't be sitting there in like the winters as well. Owen says hi. Yelchin says hi, gents. Who we got in the feed here? Luca's here. As I said, Yelchin's here. Anthony, Clegg, Patricia, Torsten. So what, so you guys are a few months or a few years into what you're doing in terms of the traveling. What I'd like to understand it and pick it apart is how that has the impact on your business, being that you're in Europe effectively, aren't you? So you're only a few hours out in terms of Lisbon. But with you, there's a big time difference. What time is it there now at the moment?
It's a little after 10 p.m., my normal exciting bedtime, but happy to, hang with you guys for a little bit.
But what so with that timeline in mind, how does that have an impact? Like we're doing the interview today, we're going to get you off to bed soon because you look after your health. But what's the situation with you running your businesses on them timelines, or is it that the businesses that you are running meet the timelines that you're on?
Yeah, so I've been living in across a lot of different time zones for so many years now that, it's like kind of same but different. Depending whether it's Asia, Europe, America, and so here, these days I'll have a lot of morning calls. So if I'm scheduling calls, I'll try to do them earlier versus later. So have a lot of calls at like 8 a.m. or 7:30 a.m. my time, which. I don't mind that much. Occasionally we'll do calls in the evening as well. And then, but then in Asia, I've also got a lot of my team is in Asia time zones. If I'm, has its advantages if you're communicating with China to be on the same time zones.
Yeah.
And so then when I'm in America, it's like, kind of similar. I'll have some like early morning calls to, it's just kind of flipped because I still have, either way I deal with all the time zones. And so wherever I am, for better, for worse, it's kind of the same.
So same for you, Emil. You've got obviously a supplements business. I'll take it's contract manufacturing. Do you manufacture in the US and sell in the US, or is it in the UK?
US or US.
Yeah, so it's not too bad the timelines with what you're doing, depending on the coast that it's on. So it's not so crippling. Like if you imagine if you're in the UK and you're in Australia, it becomes a lot different in terms of that's a drastic time zone shift. So, Emil, what does a day look like for you? Because obviously both of you will get into the health side of things as well, which I'm sure you don't need any motivation when the sun's shining to get up and do your training and stuff like that. But it's part of your lifestyle. So, Emil, what does a day look like for you when you get up first thing in the morning till night?
So similar to Nate's, time zones it depends on the time zone. So I spend a lot of time in Asia. My winters have been in Asia. So all my US stuff happens early in the morning. And as the supplements have grown, that's become more and more of an issue. So I've come back to Europe and will probably now spend the next few years either in Europe or America, South America, just because the time zones become a little bit difficult. I think Eastern time and Thailand 12 are literally polar opposite. So it gets a bit much. But literally my days will depend on where I am in the world. And my coaching clients, like Nate said, are from Pacific time to Thailand and Bali time, GMT plus 7 and 8. So it really, really depends. Actually, as you say, in Europe, it's quite nice. It's 8 a.m. Pacific time now. It's 11 p.m. in Bali, and it's 4 o'clock in the UK in Lisbon. So it's nice being in the middle because I can kind of deal with everyone in kind of normal daylight times and then go to bed in a normal time. But yeah, the days vary. But I try to keep my coaching Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I try and keep other stuff Wednesday morning, Thursday, Friday, and I try and take Wednesday afternoons and Saturdays off entirely because my baseline is working too much. So if I can have these kind of sacred times off, then that helps me relax and actually be more productive the rest of the time. But then we'll come on to talk about it. But things like sleep and training and food kind of they fit regardless of how busy I am, because they have to, because you can always make an excuse and bullshit yourself and say there's no time to train, I have to go to bed late, but you can make it work.
Makes sense. Nate, I'm always seeing Facebook stories. You're out with your chest out, 6-pack on a bike, or you're doing yoga, or you're doing these amazing stretches, which could just about stand up in comparison. So what does your day actually look like? Give me a run through. Get up in the morning, routine, rituals,
So it's been interesting, actually. So the last handful of months that I've spent a lot of time in Thailand, but this has been the longest extended that I've been, like I said, I've been traveling a lot the last years. And so, yeah, this has been an interesting experience in, really like staying in one place, which the benefit that I've been really enjoying is routine. And so, yeah, being here, like, the days I've got my morning routine, wake up, a little meditation. I do have like a little gratitude and what would make today great, some just kind of notes. And, most days after that, it's kind of like flip on the phone and a lot of like responding to, trying to catch America, this and that. And then after that, usually, I try to do like some focus work in the morning. But for me, like one of the big things that's really, kept me sane the last few months and really like leaning into even more than usual is my exercise. And I've been, biking, as you mentioned, been doing yoga for a lot of years. And so, yeah, having both of those as pretty much, I'll do yoga every day and like, there's no yoga class. I haven't been going to as many classes, but I'll just like, do something at home before lunch usually, which is good just to kind of break up the morning. I'll like work in the morning, do some yoga, have lunch, and then usually have like calls in the afternoon. And then at the end of the day, we'll end it and usually go for a bike ride or if it's gym day, go to the gym, around 4:30 or between 4 or 5. And yeah, like the bike rides for me, like I've been biking a lot, maybe like 10 hours around 10 hours a week or 8 hours a week. And that's actually been like a huge life hack, honestly, because the biking time, it's great. It's good for your body. And I use that as like audiobook time. And so I've been able to get through like a ton of audiobooks and content because you listened on 2x speed, you're on the bike for, whatever, you can get through a lot. And so, yeah, that's kind of been the routine here, getting the work in the day. And then I get my exercise in and it's been good.
So what would you say, for instance, where you are now, if someone, I go to Emil first and we jump between the two of you. You're in Lisbon, right? What would it take for someone to go, right, I want to move to Lisbon and live the same lifestyle as you? What are the basics requirements are they going to need to make that happen?
It depends on how much you're entrenched in your local place. So a lot of doctors, they will they're on the conveyor belt. So they buy a house, they buy a car, they've got this job, often family and relationships all in the UK. And you have to kind of unpick all of that. And I was a little bit of the way, and I had a house, I had a car, I had a girlfriend, and my family are there. But I was really determined. So I didn't rush it. Over maybe 2 years, I slowly removed my commitments to the UK. And then 12 months ago, sold my car, rented out my house. My girlfriend came with me. And, for the last 2 years, we've been traveling ever since. But then once you've got that freedom, I literally have my laptop and I need the internet and I'm good. I don't, literally nothing else. I got my trusty Bose headphones, which are a total lifesaver. And yeah, I travel a lot with just a backpack. I love the minimalist lifestyle in that regard. And it's just so liberating and freeing to have literally a backpack full of stuff in this kind of super materialistic world. Like I love making shitloads of money, but I also love not having to have loads of stuff. So yeah, the biggest thing is unpicking the life where you initially live. And I don't know what Nate's story is for that. That would be super interesting. But once that's kind of done, and it doesn't need to be done all in one go. Like I left for 8 months and my whole UK life was still intact. I was paying my mortgage and my car was on my drive and I was in Asia for 6, 7, 8 months. And then I went back and sort of did it in piece by piece. So you can do it in stages, but the biggest thing, bravery, courage, just to do it.
Yeah. What about you, Nate? What's your take on that?
Yeah, well, it's interesting kind of, to hear about, or, to think back to getting started or talking about kind of getting into this lifestyle, because when I've been, I've just been doing it for so long that like, that's been the normal of just having, most of my things in a bag that I take with me. And for me, it was kind of like, before I kind of took off on this extended trip, some years ago, I was moved back in with my parents because my business was failing, and then was able to, while I was living there, get some things going for myself and take off. And so when I left, I didn't have like a house, a car. I mean, I was like 25 and, was making enough money that I could bounce, but didn't, hadn't acquired too much stuff. And so it wasn't that hard to just kind of start. And then, but now what's kind of hard is once you start, it's a little bit, it gets tricky thinking about, like when the default is so easy to, throw a dart and go there. It makes it, it's like, you get into this paradox of choice thing. And to be honest, that's stuff that's kind of been top of mind or starting to be a little bit these days. I mean, I've chatted with Emil a little bit about, going to Lisbon, and it's like, all right, well, when you, there's nothing really stopping you from going anywhere. I mean, it's very freeing and liberating, but it also is challenging to figure out, okay, where you want to go and when and why. And so yeah, but you really, I don't know, I guess you really get used to it. I think kind of like Emil was saying, once you're kind of in it, it's pretty easy to keep doing it. And it actually probably gets easier to keep doing it, which is maybe why I'm still doing it. What
about in the sense of like family? So let's say someone US, UK, they've got maybe 2 young children or young children below the age of 16, 17, and they're married, etc. But they definitely want to not necessarily give up their family home or anything, but they want to try and do this lifestyle. Do you think there are a lot more barriers to entry there? Because when you're traveling solo, you've only got yourself to kind of look after. But when you're entrenched in terms of marriage and commitment with kids, everyone's got to be happy. Have you seen that work as a balance for families to do it as well?
I think it depends on, I mean, there's a few different things, but, short answer is it definitely can work. A lot of it, I think, depends on the kid's age. I mean, I've seen and met, families that live in Bali. And, Bali, you can make some pretty good arguments of that being a good place to, raise kids at depending on the age. I mean, you can get exposed to a lot of great stuff, and there's a lot of good stuff going on in Bali. And even in Thailand, there's some like really good, like I know some, expats with families that are in Chiang Mai. Like Chiang Mai would be I could see a lot of, you can make a lot of good arguments for, living with a family or even, raising a family in Chiang Mai. The one, I mean, and I know there are solutions to the whole kids schooling. Like I'm not an expert at what those options are because I haven't really had to explore that personally, but I know there are options. And so yeah.
The thing to consider here as well is, what we're striving for, Nate and I, is freedom. And that freedom doesn't necessarily mean we have to travel all the time, but we've got the option to travel if we want to. So our default was, in September of this year to go to South America. That was in our plan. It was automatic. We were going to travel loads of trips over the, all around Europe, all over the summer. But actually now we've got the freedom to say, actually, no, we're going to stay in Lisbon because COVID is a bit annoying. And actually Lisbon is amazing. We're going to stay here until next year. And there's no reason for us to move. And in terms of families then, I mean, I know 3 or 4, maybe more than that, who are my clients who have families and admittedly very young children, but some of them will travel a lot. And then once their children reach a certain age, I don't know the thing, same as Nate, but after this COVID thing and homeschooling is going to be a big thing. So that might be an option. But then I also know people who are just in certain places for certain amounts of time over the year. Like I know the people in Chiang Mai who have their kids there. And again, that's their choice to stay there. They can still travel from there, but their kid can go to school anywhere in the world, Bali, Thailand. There's plenty of options.
What is in terms of COVID? Because obviously we speak to mainly people in China, in the UK, in the US, in Australia, right? But you guys are out on the road. You're in Lisbon. I don't know a huge amount of people. I know Ash Thompson's over there for a bit. I think he's still there now. But what kind of impact has COVID had on you? Starting with you, Nate, in comparison to what your families have had to endure, what kind of impact has been on you?
Yeah. So when all of this stuff was getting crazy in March, I was actually in Bali and had a flight, was supposed to be flying back to America at the end of the month. And, one day, mid-March in Bali, I remember like I got out of yoga and was just kind of like checking up on news and, shit was like hitting the fan. and so that day I literally was just, talked to my dad, was talking to some friends and, decided that I was going to go to Chiang Mai to, ride this out. And so, thankfully did. I mean, I got here and then, they shut the borders a week or a couple weeks or whatever later. And, kind of hit the COVID lottery being in Thailand. I mean, there have been a handful of countries that, have had a really good positive response. And, fortunately, Thailand's definitely one of them. Now it's like 100. I mean, the borders are still closed, but domestically, like everything's open. I went down to the islands 2 weeks ago for like a vacation and flying was fine. And, everything's open. Like there's no restrictions or anything now. And then, contrast that to my family in America and like my parents. And I grew up in Minneapolis, which, the heart of a lot of the crazy stuff that's just been going on there. And so yeah, it's been like a very, while like, it's, more or less like a normal life here in Thailand, my sister in Austin, like has hardly left her apartment for, 4 months now. My parents, they like went to dinner for the first, well, they're divorced, but they each went to dinner, only sitting outside. And so, yeah, I mean, it's been interesting. It's like very different, different realities depending on where you are.
What about you, Emil?
So the first we heard of COVID was in Bali, and we walked into a pharmacy to get some antihistamines or something for hay fever, and there were just boxes of masks in front of the desk. And we were like, this is a bit weird. What's this about? We don't pay attention to the news. And then rumblings started coming through, and then we were flying to Vietnam. Actually, we stopped in Kuala Lumpur for a little bit, and then everything kind of kicked off. So we just thought, we'll stay here. I mean, the internet is good. The apartment was big. Everything was still open while everywhere else was kind of going a bit crazy. But, I'm a part of the DC entrepreneur network, and there was a post which was like, where are people going to stay for COVID? And people were like debating the different countries. And that's the options we have as nomads. We can literally choose where in the world we want to go. And my parents were like, you should come back to the UK. And I thought, why? The weather is still shit in February, March. It's a nice apartment, good internet here in Kuala Lumpur. I'm in no rush to go back. It was hard in Kuala Lumpur, as in we were in an apartment, not much stuff was open. But as I said, it was big, the weather was nice, the internet was good. And then when we eventually got back to Lisbon, I mean, stuff has been open for weeks and weeks now. So it's absolutely perfect here. So yeah, it's nice to have the choice to move around. But yeah, I've got clients in Thailand and Bali. And it was interesting to hear all the different experiences of everyone around the world.
Yeah, well, I think Lisbon also doing good for itself, or that's like, for my consideration of like, I don't want to go back to America because if it's, so easy and open and everything here, you don't want to like go somewhere that's, has a lot more risk or volatility or whatever. But Lisbon is somewhere that, I don't even know if it's like open to Americans, but yeah, on my radar, seems like I know a bunch of people there and it seems like a good spot to be.
Yeah. What about healthcare? How does that compare for the pair of you? You're on the road. Let's say you, God forbid, something was more of a serious nature. How do you deal and counteract something like that when you're miles from home? So starting with you, Emil.
Very good health insurance.
Yeah.
I think being a doctor and having worked a lot in intensive care, and actually I've done repatriation, so flying Brits back to the UK who got sick abroad, and knowing how much that stuff costs, like 20, 30K. So not having insurance was never an option for me. And I know lots of nomads who don't, they just don't bother. So yeah, just having very good insurance. And to be honest, when COVID hit, we did want to figure out a place that had good healthcare. And Kuala Lumpur is a big city, big international city. The cases were never very high. So we were fairly confident between our insurance and just the general infrastructure that they had and the capacity for intensive care. I was like, yeah, I'm happy there.
Yeah.
And, you know,
just being naive, but is under your insurance, was COVID covered in any way? Because it was such a new thing when you took the insurance out, was you? Yeah.
It would have been covered, but things have all changed now. So now they're more specific about it, because before it would have just counted as a respiratory illness plus intensive care plus whatever else. So I assume it would have been, we never had to test it. I assume it would have been covered, but things have changed now. So they're specifically talking about COVID and like category 3 countries. So you do need to be careful with that if you're traveling.
Yeah. What about you, Nate?
So the healthcare was definitely one of the things that factored into my decision to come to Thailand. And I mean, Thailand healthcare, like some of literally the best hospitals in the world, best and most affordable. You know, it's a really popular country for like medical tourism. And, you know, I've been to got some like full body checkups and different stuff at like one of the hospitals that's, I mean, basically down the road. And it's like borderline like hospital / resort. I mean, it's beautiful. It's like modern. There's like, you know, water and plants, and it's like, I mean, a really nice facility. And I mean, so I do have health insurance, and that's something that my dad has made sure that I always had, and for good reason.
He drummed it into you. Yeah.
Yeah, or forced or whatever, you know, but yeah, so I've been covered. But honestly, I haven't had any like major health issues abroad, but I have been to the doctor over the years for various things, and I've always just paid out of pocket because it's it's always been really reasonable. My sister once, actually, we were in Bali a couple years ago, and she broke her wrist, and so she ended up actually had to stay a couple of nights in the hospital. That, you know, they had to, whatever they had to do, but she was in the hospital for a couple of nights. And I think that wasn't, it was this big kind of thing that she was covered by health insurance. And maybe something that like the takeaway is you can be covered by health insurance, but that doesn't mean that you're going to be covered by every hospital everywhere. And so important if you're abroad. And so this is what happened with my sister. You know, she went to this hospital, and I don't think that her insurance covered it. And so my parents had to pay out of pocket for it. And I mean, more reasonable, a couple nights in a hospital, more reasonable in Bali, certainly than, in America, if you don't have health insurance. Yeah. But that is something that now I'm more aware of is, I mean, and when COVID was kind of, starting, it was just kind of making sure, you know, knowing what hospitals your health insurance covers, because I mean, makes a pretty significant difference.
Yeah, that makes sense. So in terms of, if we were to say like the top 5 things you would say is that if you're thinking about doing the laptop lifestyle, starting with you, Emil, what would you say the 5 top things? Obviously, we just discussed health insurance. That's going to be key. But give me 4 other key things you would put into place.
I mean, definitely do it. Like, it's such a unique and crazy experience. You couldn't make some of this stuff up. Like 5 years ago, even 3 years ago, I couldn't have imagined this. So do it. I mean, apart from that, things to have in place.
Like getting your mortgage in order, selling the car off, you know, when you rented the place out, obviously, because you need to keep things rolling back home. Yeah. Do you put it through an agency and stuff like that, or is it private rentals? Do you see me? There's some real mundane stuff that needs to be taken care of in order for you to be on the road and live the way you want to live, you know?
Honestly, the way I did it was totally, scruff of the, just off the cuff. Like, basically, I knew I was going to Asia in 2018 for a conference. And I was reading 4 Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And that was when I kind of said to my girlfriend, look, I'm going to Asia. Do you want to come with me? I think I'm going to come back in December, but that's still 3 months. And then she said, well, let's not come back in December. Let's just stay all winter. And I was like, okay, why not? No reason not to. And then I was reading Tim Ferriss's book, and he was saying, like, if you have a car, you need to like put it up on bricks and take the oil out. And I was like, what, really? Like, we were leaving in like a week, and I had my car, and I was like, what do I don't know what to do with this. So I literally just drove it to my parents, left it in their driveway, and was like, please do something with it. So I didn't take massive precautions. I gave a friend a key to my house in Bristol. Again, I didn't really do anything. I was just, could you like check on it now and again, I think. But then the second time I was more organized. So yeah, you have to apply to rent your house out if it's under a residential mortgage. And then I put it under an agency, and I literally don't even have to think about it, which is awesome. Car I just sold. And again, it was a last second thing because I needed it. And then I was going, and I was like, right, who wants it? I'm going to need to sell it in the next 2 days. Cash is great. So it was all kind of, it's the kind of thing that if you try and think about it, it will overwhelm you. So you just need to decide that you're going to do it and then start working through the things. You could take forever getting all of this stuff perfect. It could literally take you forever and you'll never do it. You just kind of need to just go. I mean, even the first time, if you just go for a month and just check stuff out and then come back and then go again.
Makes sense.
That would be my advice.
What about you, Nate? What other things would you add there as well?
Yeah, so I'll share from a little more of the perspective of once you get to the place wherever you're going. And I think maybe number one, most important, or I think has been for me, is having a really solid routine. And so wherever I am, Thailand, Vietnam, Lisbon, Austin, I have a pretty, like, my days and my schedule and my routine is pretty similar. I go to the gym on Tuesdays and Saturdays. I do yoga the other days. I get in bike rides. I mean, the schedule that I was kind of saying I was in here, it's been more solidified for sure. And there's been some differences, but in general, like wherever I am, I keep to a pretty similar schedule. And that's, I think, is really key because, you know, a lot of people, you want to be traveling and working. So you get to a new place and, you know, you're excited and you want to be more of a tourist. And that's an easy way to, you know, lose focus. And I mean, depending on what your goals are, if you're on a vacation or if you're, you know, trying to do this sustainably and while working. And so I was always wanting to, you know, sustain this lifestyle. And so yeah, like, pretty normal routine work weeks, and then, you know, do stuff on the weekends and be a tourist. And, you know, there's exceptions, but, you know, having that routine has really allowed me to stay productive while traveling. And you say the other I think key thing is going where you know people or have some sort of community. And that's, I mean, the other biggest thing for me, and, you know, my travel overwhelmingly over the last, you know, years has always been going to places, you know, where I know people or, you know, have been before and have community. Because I mean, traveling is great and going new places is fun. And, you know, I do take solo trips and go to places that I haven't been, but if you're doing this as a extended lifestyle, you know, it's good to have friends. Like, you know, going to places where you know people, it makes it a lot easier. And you don't want to, I mean, meeting people is still great and you know, you can, but yeah, I think it makes it a lot easier if you can, you know, at least some people that are there that then can introduce you to the other people. It's like a lot easier to, you know, get integrated.
What would you say, like, on your travels? Because obviously there's two sides to this. Like, the conversation we're having today is two successful business owners. You're on the road doing your thing, right? But what percentage of, you know, the said community are actually more the successful end of business owners, you know, have teams, distributed teams or whatever, versus people that are going there to put some sun on the back, to have some fun and make enough to live that lifestyle in an area where the cost of living is so much lower? Starting with you, Emil.
Yeah, I would say it's both for sure. And I think as businesses get bigger and more successful, there's a general trend of less travel, not exclusively, but just in general. You're undeniably more productive if you have an office and multiple monitors and all this stuff that you can't necessarily carry around. But I definitely know people in the two extremes, people literally going for a couple of $1,000 a month and living very happily in Thailand or Bali.
Yeah, exactly.
But
you could live well for that. Yeah.
Oh, the perfect lifestyle. For me, I'm very much about long-term sustainability, and for me, that means earning a lot more than that. So, but I love traveling, so it's definitely about finding the balance. But yeah, there's definitely also people with very large businesses, multiple businesses, whatever, who either are totally nomad or who travel a lot from a base, which is also very, very similar for extended periods.
Makes sense. What about you, Nate? What's the vibe you've got from all the communities you've met? Is there, what would you say, a 50-50 split, 70-30, in terms of like the really successful and the guys who are just there for a good time, make the minimum that they need to live the life that they want in that location?
So yeah, I think depends on a few things. Depends on the location. And so some places, and like Chiang Mai, for example, at times gets a bad rep. Well, gets a rep. You can decide if it's good or bad for people that, just want to make $1,000 a month and chill out. And it does attract, those type of people, because you can live well for $1,000 a month. And people do come here that want to, work a little bit and also, not work and relax and be in Thailand. But then you have, other people that, like myself, when I moved abroad, was making a couple $1,000s a month and moved to Vietnam. And, I was ambitious and I was there, and I wanted to have fun, and I did have fun, but I also wanted to work, and, met and became a part of the communities abroad. And it's been interesting that, like, as I've, grown and progressed myself and in my journey, kind of like attracts like sort of thing. And so as my life and business has matured, it just kind of seems like, the people that I tend to meet and connect with and spend time with, whether it's, whatever city it is, are more, kind of like-minded or similar place in their aspirations or business, that I am now. And so yeah, like I still, would at times encounter people that are more of the, coconut cowboy, make $1,000, stay on the, beach. But yeah, not, most of the people that I'm spending time with are, serious about their business and doing interesting things. And so yeah, I guess there's a place for everyone depending on what you're into.
Yeah, the reason I say it as well is because they say about, the average of the 5 people you spend most time with. And so you could be forgiven by, right, the sun's shining, and you get lazy and you don't put as much into your business because you see what everyone else is doing, and the motivation may be not as high, like if you're in a major city in the UK or you're in the US, picking up with other sellers that are doing really well, and they edge you on because you're inspired by what they're doing. You begin to think fall by the wayside if you're not disciplined as well.
Yeah, well, that's just to loop back to what I was saying about having the routine, again, being so necessary, at least for me, to be able to like do anything, because when you are abroad and, because you do, a lot of the crowds that you'll find yourself in will have a mix, and a lot of people that, they are abroad, and maybe some people are more want to have fun and they're there more to party and work a little bit. And that's fine. People can do whatever they want, but I think, you want to be really clear about what you want and what your priorities are. And, for me, at least, having these, routines that I'm pretty disciplined with sticking to, it helps me to stay on track for my goals when, there's a lot of other options, just like screw off and, go to another, hop down to the islands or go to the mountains or this or that. Like when you're abroad, those types of opportunities are really available. And, or just like, going out for a night when you weren't planning on it, which, of course, like is okay sometimes, but yeah, having that routine and discipline and knowing what you want to keep you, on track to be able to do this sustainably, I think is really important.
Sorry, my doors are open here. You could probably hear everything clanging into the background because the wind's kicking up. I'm concerned the lights are going to go over in a sec. Emil, is there anything you want to add here before we go?
Yeah, I was just going to say, honestly, the reason I started traveling was to upgrade the average. And that was the focus of my travel pretty much consistently. I think that's been hugely powerful, and it's increased my business and everything else, my mindset, my everything. Since I started, and even living here in Lisbon, going out on a Saturday and drinking beer in the park, the conversations are just totally different from perhaps what I would be restricted to geographically, in Cardiff or whatever. So this has been very useful in that regard. And I think you can tailor it, as Nate said, depending on what you want. But you can do what you want to do for sure.
Cool. Well, look, let's wrap that there. Nate, what's the best way that people can reach out to you?
Can add me on Facebook at Nate Ginsburg or Instagram, or check out the Ecom Exits podcast if you're interested in ecom and exits.
Sounds good. Emil?
Best for me is Emil Goliath on Facebook, Project Goliath on Instagram. And yeah, hit me up anytime.
Sounds good. Guys, we're going to wrap there. I'll see you back here, BST, 4 p.m. tomorrow. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Stay home, stay safe, and see you tomorrow. Take care.
See you later, guys. Nice one.
Good night.